My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
This is Ontario International Airport that is stalking, and so are the people of the state. This is mental illness. This is actually pacing by a group. They're all demons. And so are the demons that are in the sky space stalking with commercial planes. And as you see here, stalking as well, maintaining aerial surveillance. They need to keep the fakes on as I document the demon possessed, the corrupt co-conspirators of murder, that is gang stalkers, at the University of Laverne College of Law. Gang stalking institution shall not remain as a legitimate law school. That's speaking to bar to being accredited. That's speaking to what is preclusion to being able to sit for the California bar as a gang stalker at a corrupt gang stalking institution, as I've been documenting, and my documentation establishing the corruption and the co-conspiracy to commit murder, while those who are sitting unfit to sit for the California bar. This is going to retroactively be effective with regard to the years that I've been subject to the pattern of conduct. It is also 9:34 a.m. where the Ontario International Airport is stalking just like they were at 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday when I was at the same address. And the Ontario police, like you saw, stalking me just like they are stalking right now with the people of the state who are a mentally ill population who continue doing that, which is not serving their corrupt purposes, which are also no longer a secret, which is also why you are witnessing the evidence of mental illness. The delusional psychopaths who do consume feces and do have sex with children and are a threat to the public and shall be subject to deportation are continuously engaging in what is delusional and failed witchcraft as you're looking at the evidence of them stalking as an entity, which is terrorism. It's spiritually significant for the mentally ill, however. It's failed witchcraft. This is how they typically murder people, and this is not so with myself, Erica Lorenz Spencer. I'm going to prosecute. This is all gang violence with regard to the terrorist organization Ontario Police, and you're looking at the time frame. This is 215 E.C. Street, where Talia is opening the front door. Gregory's opening the front door. The Ontario Police are stalking me as I walk through that front door at 10 o'clock in the afternoon, yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's how you're looking at an environment that's conducive to surveillance by vagina monitors. All right, vagina monitors with their kids in the car, vagina monitors with their clutching the hands of their children, and they're all stalking. This is mental illness. This is P.O.C. License plate 7WQM239. Overweight, Latina, female, P.O.C. Alrighty, it's currently 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the same location that I was at, by the way, taking the same walk where the Ontario police are stalking by helicopter right here while the fake sun is over me at the same location. Remember the Caucasian woman holding the hand of a child while a line of demons in this parking lot, just like they are now, stalking under the supernatural evidence, which is going to prosecute a population 863, I believe. Impossible light dragging across the wall. Nonetheless, that's the population that shares a supernatural pattern of conduct. That's relevant to what is psychological torture or harassment. They also do the same thing with regard to being obsessed with me. The demon possessed, their obsession while they're stalking is proven through the fake sun. It's proven through the impossible light activity. It's proven through the ongoing conduct regarding sensational activity. It's proven even through using planes and helicopters, doing so as a population. This is a population that is mentally ill by virtue of that obsession, by virtue of stalking, which is proven by science. This is not at 221 North Fern Avenue, which is where I'm at, where Southwest Airlines is gang stalking me, knowing exactly where I'm at in the city of Ontario, proven through what is the fake sun that's over me, which is not anywhere over the 280 North Limit Apartments, where the fake sun is reflecting off of this window after 4 p.m. This is a stalker stalking with light. This is how you're analyzing the behavior of those engaging in criminal surveillance and engaging in what is the conspiracy to commit murder. This is pacing under the fake sun and engineered light. That's the significance of the environment and everything that's happening. These are demon-possessed people, and they're also vagina monitors. Sex offenders are not individuals, they're companies, they're government agencies, they are public entities altogether, the state. 97394 Charlie 2 is a gang stalker, and if this is an immigrant, they're subject to deportation. If this is somebody in a custodial position regarding children, they're losing custody and access. If they are engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct, like I documented yesterday, while the police are engaging in terrorism, you are sharing in the elements, you're going to federal prison. While they engage in criminal summoning, you're going to federal prison. That's what these demons at the OVITT Family Community Library have engaged in. It is 10:02 a.m. I am at 215 North Fern Street at Vesta and Fern yesterday. I had not yet made it here, and I'm also here at 1 o'clock where this fake sun is also over me at the moment that I am, not over anybody else, and sunlight is not going to ricochet off your car while you're driving under it. Stalkers, 8AUK631, 2476401, conspirators of murder, 9SWE904, not only the demon operating, but Oregon itself. License 9MED346, and what's relevant is you're paying attention to the impunity, because that's what's happening when terrorism is underway and an American citizen is documenting a government. And that same impunity is going to be relevant when they are prosecuted as a population and as a government in court. This is P.O.C. It is currently, again, 10:03 a.m. The city of Ontario. Paul Leon is out of a job, spending the resources of the city While demons are engaging in terrorism and furtherance of murder, this is the psychopath that was stalking in the parking lot. Okay, she's bitter and hostile because I captured her psychopathic self stalking in a vehicle associated with the municipality that are demon-possessed, engaging in criminal monitoring, not helping her co-defendants in OVITT. They're going to federal prison. This is how the idiocy of the demon-possessed have resulted in what is the implosion of gang stalking. It is 10:03 a.m. This is also not outside of the Ontario Airport and window facing the 10 freeway at Archibald Avenue, where demons of the municipality were the criminal system that Paul Leon is engaged in, conspiring the murder of a resident of the city, is evident through the gang stalking of that municipality, through the criminal criminal expenditures of that city that are using the resources of the municipality to harass and terrorize. That's what's relevant regarding gang stalking in City of Ontario vehicles. Molestation with impossible light with City of Ontario vehicles. That ongoing terrorism and harassment by the City of Ontario at state facilitating venues associated with the mayor and associated with that which the mayor is reasonably responsible for and shall be removed from office for and is not exempted from a federal prosecution for. It is currently 10:04 a.m. This is P.O.C. at the OVITT Family Community Library as well. That's the town square. This is the 280 North Lemon Apartments. You just saw a population share in what is openly terrorizing an American citizen, proving that they are engaged in terrorism in the United States, in California, in the City of Ontario, and they openly engage in conspiring the murder of an American citizen in this manner. And the federal judge of federal court, the United States, you're witnessing their open communication to you that they hate this country and they hate American citizens. They hate your enforcement of your rights. Because while they're targeting me with this foolishness, understand it's a threat to you. And the federal government is going to respond accordingly. This is P.O.C.
Activity tracing. And this is BETHEL monitoring in concert with the sex offender that goes into the staff restroom. And what sex offenders do is they commit more sexual violence, which also is relevant to their mental illness and their proclivity toward their predisposition toward violence and sexual violence in particular, and ongoing harassment and psychological torture, because the entity's pattern with regard to every method of gang stalking is to engage in more of it, especially as it's documented. And it is as though the demon-possessed, who are, again, these are people that are mentally ill, akin to you imagining people that consume feces. Severe mental illness is obvious. This is the same with regard to the entity that is stalking under a fake sun. Feces consumers are not logical, and it is absolutely illogical to suggest, which is what the pattern of conduct is revealing, must be their mindset, which is demented, that I will engage in more of that pattern of conduct to rebut the fact that I'm engaged in a pattern of conduct, when logically and legally you are engaging in a pattern of conduct, and to repeat that behavior is to further engage in the pattern of conduct, which is more evidence establishing that very pattern of conduct. The entity engages in sexual violence, goes into the staff restroom, and as I document that, then you have the entity engaging in what is filling the women's restroom, and that is the entity that engages in that while they are monitoring the evidence to suggest, and this is a failure because the sex offenders don't even have to go into the women's restroom for me to prosecute Alexander for monitoring my vagina, for which it's a federal offense, it's an act of terrorism. And he's going to prison for also kidnapping and criminal summoning. But he's a vagina monitor and has been engaged in that for years. Alexander is monitoring with the sex offender that goes into the staff restroom. And by the way, they do that with both male and female that go into. But these are homosexual predators, and they're also the male gender who are equally demon-possessed, equally predatory. And that's breaking down also the illusions with regard to how men are so much of a threat to women as rapists. No. The demon-possessed do not have a gender. You're dealing with Satan, okay? That is engaged in what is severely demented, sexual violence, predatory, focused, sexually motivated to engage in what is violating you as an entity. They all together derive pleasure out of violating your privacy, engaging in the elements of monitoring while they know that your genitalia, while you're indisposed, while you're engaged in what is dealing with however you're dealing with your genitalia in the restroom. They derive pleasure out of that. And as you document, this is again the entity that presupposes they're going to get away with it. I documented it, and they were never going to get away with that. But the demon-possessed, they're not all-knowing. This is Satan. So they engaged in all this conduct, presupposing that they were going to get away with it, and they're not. And it's sitting on the record for you to learn how much of a violent threat the demon-possessed, the mentally ill are. Violent sex offenders. Okay, they engage in what is deriving pleasure, are sexually gratified by bathroom monitoring, by genitalia monitoring, keeping your genitalia under surveillance, and engage in more of it, just like what the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library is doing, by the way, under the fake sun. They didn't. This is what I'm saying. This is the entity that is very mentally ill, and there is no competition. You consume feces. You're not competing with me. You're not arguing. There's no counter argument. You're acting like you're not gang stalking. You're so psychopathic and delusional. You're losing at your own sick game. But nonetheless, I will go ahead and concede what the demon-possessed are in their sick, twisted minds engaging in, based upon the fact that I've been subject to it and what they are always engaging in. And that has, in the same way that you're analyzing everything else about what a stalker is doing, about what a criminal is doing, and the mindset, you are also analyzing what that mindset is when they repeat that pattern of conduct with specific knowledge. So as I document, they engage in more of it. As I document a sex offender going into the staff restroom, the entity fills the restroom with sex offenders that go into the restroom, which is filled with engineer light. Hi, Miss Starla. How are you? This is the entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct. So the restroom is filled with engineer light, so you don't even have to go in there. They do that based on knowledge of that documentation, which is evidence of mental illness. You're going to prison under both circumstances. You are not disproving. Southwest Airlines is stalking, exposing what is the entity, the city that is stalking, while I'm at 221 North Fern Avenue yesterday. There's no sun that's going to be over the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library, and I went to the extent to point that out to you, and everyone can see that. Nobody's imagining that. No one. The entity that's engaged in criminal defamation are the same gang members who consume feces. They are not in any position to speak upon anybody's character. And many of the terms that they use and abuse, and then they have the demon-possessed that are in strategic positions to give their stamp of approval of criminal conduct, which they do not do ignorantly. And they also don't do reasonably. Under both circumstances, they're being prosecuted for kidnapping. The entities engaged in that pattern of conduct, however, and I want to be clear, they're doing so with knowledge of documentation. So the sex offender that's already proven through the specific environment goes to the extent to terrorize and harass the targeted individual whom they've been molesting with impossible light all day, all night, stalking with planes and helicopters all day, all night, stalking as a population, and then going into the restroom. As you document, sex offenders going into adjacent rooms, which are the restrooms that have inexplicable light, artificial light bulbs in the ceiling, do not cause a shadow to be on the ground, magnified in size, and a shadow upright on the wall. That doesn't cause that. And it's the same light activity throughout the library. It's the same light activity outside. It's the same light activity under the fake sun. This is the entity that's engaged in psychopathic pacing, all right? While they are engaging in what is presenting a failed appearance of sanity, they're actually presenting to you what is the evidence when you remove that illusion, because you're aware of the fake sun, you're aware of the engineer light, you're aware of the government's pattern of conduct, you're aware of the government's pattern of conduct through that population who are not engaged in just traffic. They're not engaged in what is pedestrian traffic. They're pacing as one entity that's going back and forth, and they do that in bathrooms, and they do that pursuant to concentrated knowledge on one person's genitalia altogether, while they maintain surveillance and they want to maintain custody of children and be able to access children and be around children. They want to remain in this country as immigrants, and none of that's happening either. None of it. All right, so the entities engaged in that pattern of conduct, engaging in surveillance through a third party that's on a, automatic motor wheelchair. This is a means of stalking, sitting right in front of the bathroom stall, in order to use the only bathroom stall, which I'm always using with my luggage carrier, whatnot. I'm just breaking down what are their tactics, what are their methods. You're always looking at what are the demon-possessed relying on. They're relying on the appearance of the thing. So the appearance of the thing is that somebody in a wheelchair needs the handicap stall, right? They're in engineer light. They're under the fake sun. The entity is stalking by helicopter and planes everywhere that I'm going. This is a population engaging in vagina monitoring as a large group of people who are together sex offenders, and their children are sex offenders while they're gang stalking with the people of the state, with the government. And because you've made children that, you've included them in that, you've trained them to do that, you are going to federal prison for these things. You are losing custody and access to children for these things. But the entities engage in that, and you are merely assessing their mental illness, what must be sick in the mind of those that would engage in that in the first place, who conjures that up in the first place. And then not only does it, everyone's purpose is to maintain an outward demeanor as though it's not happening, so that they can also criminally defame an ordinary target individual who was reasonably acting in some sort of what an ignorant person speaking in a bombastic, inflammatory manner would criticize the targeted individual, thereby adding more harm. You are not flipping out when you are responding to people who are going berserk in a manner where they keep a smile on their face and they hold the hands of children and they are obsessively stalking you. And they don't want anybody else to know that but you. And you know that based on the demonic environment that they keep around you, the demonic behaviors that they practice. And they do that with a government that helps them, that will arrest you and harass you and terrorize you and threaten you if you have the audacity to enforce your rights. The ordinary target individual is not mentally ill. They're not flipping out. None of those terms apply. And you need to check yourself and be more responsible, because this is the work of Satan, and you are feeding into serving his purposes while you attack American citizens who are subject to a targeting system that was never designed for human beings to endure. You're not flipping out, and it's not mental illness. You are responding as a fragile human being. And not only that, not everyone's going to respond in the same manner, because we have different backgrounds, we have different strengths and weaknesses, we have different trigger points, if you will, different points of maturity. We're at different levels, all of that. You cannot even prescribe how a certain person is going to respond to this sickness. You cannot prescribe that. And that's nothing to be mentally assessed either. The government, the entity, remains the criminal, the predator, the stalker, the sicko. That always remains the case. This is not some biased advocacy on behalf of somebody. This is literally the case. They are stalking you. At what point does the person that's being stalked become the person that's supposed to be studied by some a behavioral health specialist? Where does that? It's totally irrelevant, and it's legally irrelevant in a court of law. The only time that will become the case is, say, in a traditional, everyone's familiar with ordinary traditional stalking. So you're claiming that somebody is stalking you, and you have to establish that with a pattern of conduct, documentation. And so you're coming into the court, you're before a superior court judge, and you're speaking gibberish. You're presenting no evidence whatsoever that someone is stalking you, that this particular person is stalking you. And that would be plain on its face. That would be very obvious. Okay, this is something where you perhaps have some sort of situation, some sort of circumstance where, okay, you don't have someone that is actually following you from place to place. This is no evidence of this person following you around, and perhaps there is something that needs to be looked further into in order to help that person that is alleging that, and it's just not supported by evidence. If someone is following you around, you have the evidence of them following you around. In fact, as you go from place to place, you document them being there at that place, which is not a coincidence. It's a pattern that is unlawful, and you can enforce your rights. It doesn't change because it's the government. In fact, it's worse because the government's pattern of conduct is also malicious, and the government likes to make up information stating that you're crazy. We're not stalking you. You are crazy. That's exactly what the government does. And it's terrorism why the government does that, and it's terrorism why the government does it with the people of the state who have totally abandoned their identification under the law, under the state and federal constitutions, by virtue of the pattern of conduct. They are in the shoes of the state. They are vicarious state actors. There is no individual engaging in the federal group stalking and monitoring. The people of the state are third parties, and you will be prosecuted as a government actor, an entity. The entity went inside the bathroom in Engineer Light under the fake sun. The entity went into the bathroom after I'm documenting the sex offenders that are employed at OVITT Family Community Library, who has the fake sun from 7 a.m. until approximately 6:38 p.m. All of that's already the foundation here. I capture it from day to day. The foundation is already laid. They're going to prison for criminal summoning, for kidnapping as an entity, obstruction of justice, criminal defamation, harassment, and terrorism. With the intent to obstruct justice, they're going to federal prison for a plethora of things. Federal charges, terrorism, acts of terrorism. And they're still doing it, including while they go into the bathroom as an entity with knowledge of the documentation. So I just want to make that clear. They have a demon that engages in what is surveillance, and this is an act of what is hostility. It's actually an act of hostility, and this is what you need to open your mind to and recognize. The demon-possessed that are engaging in acts of hostility and aggression are doing so with smiles on their faces, are doing so in malicious manners, such as a physically handicapped person in Engineer Light in that bathroom that is sitting outside of that bathroom door, and they're stalking and monitoring your vagina. doing so maliciously, while a whole population is hostile because of your very probative and damning and embarrassing evidence. And still you're going to prison. And everyone's going to know your term in prison is associated with your monitoring Erica Spencer's vagina. Everyone's going to know that. Everyone knows it already, and everyone knows it as you are a future federal prison inmate. And that's all the demons that are listening. Mike Lorenz, the entity that likes to threaten, Jay Sandoval, the demons that like to kidnap, Vivanco, the entity that's engaging in what is criminal defamation, Tracy Banks, that likes to steal and defame my character while you worship me, Jason Fields, that likes to lie and act like he's innocent and doesn't know anything, Eric Spencer. I can go on, but the entities whose name I know and those whose name I don't need to know, because I've been prosecuting the whole time while you've been engaged in fictitious acts of authority under the law in gang stalking courtrooms concerning property that belongs to me, but you don't have any jurisdiction over, nor over me, because of the system of surveillance. And it's not a coincidence that you were stealing and lying on my character while I'm being gang stalked in bathrooms. And you're going to prison. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity that is mentally ill. Their mental illness is also evidence while they continuously accumulate federal charges and time in prison, and they're already caught. They're already prosecuted. They're already prosecuted. There is no son that's going to be over 221 North Fern Avenue. While it is over me, I'm at a totally distinct location, including the Ontario Airport Inn, but we could just use the OVITT Family Community Library. I'm literally there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. And the entity has the fake son over me, where the Ontario police are engaged in vagina monitoring through the unintelligent, demon-possessed feces consumers with whom they share that same status. Obsessed with my vagina. That includes Starla, Alexander, that includes every employee that are engaged in that. Alexander's at the front desk, engaged in monitoring a vagina as an entity. Vagina monitoring is a federal offense. All right? It is referred to as bathroom monitoring. The perpetual sex offense is technically what is referred to. The perpetual sex offense is executed in a plethora of manners. Monitoring you in the bathroom, monitoring you in a private space. That could be your home, the bathroom inside of your home, the bathroom inside of a third-party facilitating venue's home. When you're kidnapped, you maintain that privacy, and the kidnappers are going to be prosecuted as sex offenders. While you're engaged in private activity, you're not going to forfeit that because the entity kidnapped you. They're going to be prosecuted for violating you, monitoring your genitalia in facilities like West Valley Detention Center while they're kidnapping. Monitoring in bathrooms like the library, a facilitating venue. Monitoring in bathrooms like Starbucks, a facilitating venue. This is the P.O.C. The perpetual sex offense is underway while the entity is molesting with impossible light. The state of California is a sex offender, and that's exactly how it's going to be prosecuted. The state of California keeps a fake sun over me while demons are worshiping me, stalking me, conspiring my murder. That's not the sun, and it's not sunlight that you're touching me with. You're going to be prosecuted like any other sex offender, Satan. Like any other sex offender. The engineer light is an unlawful touching. This is an unnatural environment, a scientifically impossible one. You're going to the extent to touch me while you're stalking, to engage in a criminal act, surveillance, and furtherance of my murder. Yes, you're going to be prosecuted as a sex offender. You're always touching while you're always stalking. That's a sex offender's mindset. And these sex offenders are not keeping custody of children. And they engage in more sexual violence while they're documented, proving that they're sex offenders. But I just want to document that. The entity engages in what is sexual violence while they go into the bathroom, communicating an unlawful threat on behalf of sex offenders, vagina monitors, like Mike Lorenz. Mike Lorenz has spent thousands and thousands, if not millions of dollars on my vagina and keeping it under surveillance. He's going to prison for it. And he does that with the other one obsessed with my vagina, Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, gang leaders. They're going to prison. They're going to federal prison. It is currently 10:31 a.m. This is bathroom monitoring. Starla is engaged in what is limping on a cane and engineer light. She's engaged in monitoring my vagina outside of the bathroom while sex offenders pace inside, pace in and out, and doing so while the entity is maintaining ongoing criminal presence in the adjacent bathrooms, such as the staff restroom, which I documented, and then the sex offenders begin pacing in and out of that restroom. Okay, creating what is audible activity. As I start recording, you hear that toilet flush. That's a demon that's monitoring. Your knowledge of that is based on the fact that my shadow is on the floor and on the wall upright in that bathroom, which is impossible light activity. The same light activity that's at the bus stop where these vagina monitors are stalking me outside all night long on behalf of the same government that's engaged in stalking in incredible manners such as by Omnitrans, that's maintaining a bus line under a fake sun, stalking in furtherance of murder. Engage in sensational activity, harassment. That's how much the demon-possessed are obsessed, using everything that they have to stalk me everywhere. This is P.O.C. Okay, it's currently 10:32 a.m. You will get plenty of visuals on the Google Drive and plenty of visuals that are uploaded onto the website, which is the Google Drive. This is the POC.wordpress.com is the where I maintain the Google Drive on a day-to-day basis regarding all the evidence, and also on YouTube, where the video of the entity stalking, it's at 9 in the morning. The entity has the fake sun over this venue at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And everybody's sitting in here engaged in that pattern of conduct now. Good morning, Myra. You straightened your hair today. Do you have any disinfectant wipes, please? Yeah. Thank you. Do you straighten your hair with the flat iron or the plug-in like a regular room? Oh, good job. Looks cute. Do you guys have any rooms available? The study room? For 2 hours? No decisions. I think I will, yes. Sorry. Don't think. Yes, I will. Do you need my hybrid? Okay, that's fine. Can you leave it open? I'm going to get a laptop. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Myra. Number, I see the light on. Okay, thank you. Alrighty, the entity's engaged in what is, it turns out to be very pathetic, while a population of people together are tag teaming stalking. And not only is it pathetic, it's mentally ill certifiable conduct. And that certifiable conduct and that criminal conduct is also proven through an environment where you don't even have to talk to anybody, and you can know what all the psychopaths are doing together. This is the entity that is indeed engaging in the fake son documentation. The fake son's at the back of the library where I captured it this morning, documenting the University of Laverne College of Law. And as you walk in front of me, you are stalking in the path. This is a psychopath that keeps their back to you while they do that. And this is the entity that's doing so under the fake son. You can see that the entity is maintaining that specific environment, and you have what is stalking in a library. Right, it's currently, by the way, you'll see these images, it's 10:37 a.m. The entity has the fake son over me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at this entrance of 215 E.C. Street. And that's where you're getting to what is malicious conduct. People who lie with a straight face, people who lie who are related to you, who feign being your friends, being in a relationship with you, people who lie regarding their behavior. You're not here actually focused on getting a book. You're not just roaming through the book stacks. You're engaging in a system. And it takes amount of time in order to accumulate a body of evidence in order to establish what is no randomness, what are no coincidences, what are no accidents, what is intentional, and what is pursuant to targeting, what is proven surveillance. And the P.O.C. is that. So this is where you are looking at, now you're scrutinizing the behavior behind what is targeting. And targeting is appearing as, or is failing at, because you're no longer under any illusion. Targeting is designed to appear as normal everyday life. Casualty, taking your time just perusing through the book stacks, you're stalking, and they're specifically stalking me. These demons are engaged in what is harassment. I typically sit at computer number 1, for example, and I don't care. It's not my computer. I don't have any attachment to any computer in here, but I typically sit at number 1, and all the stalkers know that, okay? So the entity, and let me be clear, there is a level of what is relevant behavior, because you're here stalking me. And that's the entity that is even doing so as you are an employee, including Myra. You're here stalking me. The fake son comes over as I come to where it is that you're working, where you're stalking me. The entity presupposes that because you have some sort of quote unquote place of belonging. No, you don't. You have a place that is incriminating not just you, but everyone. You'll go to federal prison for gang stalking at work. You'll go to federal prison for gang stalking where you travel. You'll go to federal prison for gang stalking where you live. You'll go to federal prison for gang stalking at your friend's house. You'll go to federal prison for gang stalking with the police at the police station. You'll go to federal prison for gang stalking at any place at any time. This is the entity that's maintaining a specific environment. It's terrorism. And so then when you scrutinize that behavior of somebody that's just walking around in the book stacks, this third party is stalking while keeping his back to me, is aware of what's going on with my vagina in the bathroom. This is that supernatural conduct the demon possessed, which you need to be informed of. Now, you need to know that with regard to your knowledge is just information for you to be aware of, okay? But what you are able to witness and what you're looking at with tangible evidence, the fake son is over me while I'm at the back portion. That is the direct opposite and mutually exclusive. If it's at the entrance, then it's not rapidly moving to the back. In fact, it was already over me at Plum and D Street this morning. I'm documenting demons' license plates at that same location at the back where the mop head on the Securitas golf cart is stalking with light activity. This is already captured in images. And then I go to the Ontario Town Square and I capture video, and the entity has the fake son over me as I'm at the front of the library, the same front entrance area where I'm at 10 o'clock capturing video of that which is not occurring at the same time at 221 North Fern Avenue. Everyone inside of the library is caught with regard to a crime scene because the microaggressive conduct, the passive-aggressive system of federal group stalking and monitoring, which is executed amongst a quote-unquote anonymous population, is occurring in an obvious manner while they don't utter a syllable, and they don't have to. Science is screaming at the top of its lungs, guilty, stalking, psychopath, sex offender, entity, demons. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so in a manner that is irreconcilable. You are necessarily looking right back at the people, right back at that entity. So now you can't have it both ways. Oh, I don't know, and I'm minding my business, and the targeted individual is imagining. And also you've got a sun that's remaining over that person everywhere that they're going. And you're there, and you're just like, hey, don't ask me. I don't know nothing about. That's what they're suggesting. They are delusional feces consumers. You're going to prison, and everyone sees you. This is Satan, who is not the Almighty. He is not omnipotent. He is not all-knowing. That's why he does things like keep a fake son over the one whom he cannot have. And all the demons are worshiping me and worshiping my vagina. And it's the perpetual sex offense. It is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is state action. It is mental illness cloaked in what's supposed to be normal everyday society. And it is mental illness that is shared, borne by a population. And this is changing the way in which the medical profession is abused in order to target American citizens. And they're being targeted by those who are actual psychopaths, malicious psychopaths, who know very well who you are, how advanced you are, how blessed you are by God, in fact, because this is used to persecute Christ's followers. Okay, now this is a targeting system. This is a surveillance system. So that doesn't mean that those that don't know Christ are not subject to the same surveillance, because they are. They're being targeted and very well subject to the same bullying. The people of the state are killing each other. The demon-possessed gang-stalking police that are targeting with the people, these are demons that are engaged in what is targeting each other. The demons are out here acting like they're conducting investigations and they're doing major busts of the people that are maintaining some secret operation. These demons are monitoring together, engaging in criminal conduct, and they're keeping themselves employed. And what are the demons going to say? Well, what are they going to contend? They don't have any evidence of the P.O.C. The Lord God hasn't given them that divine insight. This is an unspoken system that's you're supposed to appear as though you're out of your mind if you were to ever try to allege this system is existing and you don't have the evidence. And it's more than the evidence. You have to have the ability to break it down, make it palatable for the average person to understand. And that is for your good, for your information. I want to be clear. Yes, I am speaking to the masses, okay? This is a message that you want to, it is the Lord's will that you know and understand. And especially for those of you who are the Lord God's children. He is speaking directly to you, okay? But this is for everyone to know and understand. And it is that which cannot be rebutted. Not reasonably, not actually, nor reasonably. You cannot contend that that's the sun over you in Kentucky, and I'm showing you how it's remaining over me all day long, and I'm not even going to entertain that. It's untenable. Okay, so you cannot reasonably do that, nor can you actually. But you're going to have those that's what they do. They eat feces and say that they're elite. No, you're not. You eat poop. No, you're not. There's nothing elite about that. There's nothing elite about smelling like it either. There's nothing elite about having traces of it all over your mouth, because that's exactly what is the case when they're under a fake sun, whether you want to state anything or not, and your obsession is proven. They're sitting all around inside of the library, proven to be engaging in that which they never imagined would be proven. They're humiliated, and they're hostile and aggressive stalkers and violent sex offenders, and they're mad. They are demons. They are mentally ill, and they are going into the appropriate facilities. They are going to be labeled appropriately for the protection of the American public. They are going to have what is a necessarily altered future so that they can't do this anymore to anybody else that's unsuspecting. They can't just move into another population, another area, and start over. Okay? This is the entity that's engaged in it. They're stalking in a library to commit murder. They're taking shifts. They're engaged. That's sick behavior. This is the entity that's doing so on behalf of the government. This is the entity that's doing so now while they are exposed. And do you know what the exposed co-conspirators of murder do? They engage in more harassment. This is what Omnitrans is doing. This is what the city of Ontario is doing. This is what the people of the state are doing. The vagina monitors inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, that's what they're doing. The employees of the OVITT Family Community Library, that's what they're doing. Mad because you lost at what is a sick game in the first place, while you try to envelop me within this existence in a bubble. And so I will beat you in your own games, which are very, very sick. And as they lose at their own games, they expose themselves. They expose themselves. And while they're still stalking now, because everybody sees the criminal pattern of conduct, everyone sees what they're doing. So now I am showing you, this is how you assess this person, this entity that's engaging in that conduct. This is what must be wrong with that person, with that personality, with that mind. And remember, that is the entity. You're talking about an entity full of psychopaths, an entity full of stalkers, an entity full of sex offenders, an entity full of deranged maniacs who like to conceal that maniacal disorder through a smile on their face, through walking through the aisles quietly, not saying anything, just coming in, doing their part, checking out some books, perusing the aisles, engaging in surveillance, heavy duty, psychopathic, obsessive surveillance. That's how serious Satan is with regard to keeping me surrounded. And that's not an exaggeration. And that can only be proven through what is all of the evidence. And that's why the evidence, most of the time, I am giving ongoing analysis while I'm capturing the evidence. But I'm always capturing the evidence because the evidence speaks for itself. Because you do not want to be persuaded by anybody, by the way, that could talk you into the pit of hell and deceive you when they don't have the receipts. Where's the proof at? Because the proof speaks for itself. But moreover, let me give you analysis. Let me give you insight into what I know and what I went to the extent to prove with tangible evidence so that you can benefit from it. So that you'll know. Because there are people out here, even celebrities, they're engaging in the system. Celebrities have been subject to what is targeting. They took all their money, took their reputation, and took their money. That's how they got their money, by taking their reputation. Celebrities even subject to this. These are demons, though. So this is what demons are doing to each other. This is how this demonic system is designed to operate in the United States. It's literally a means of what is a calculated robbery. It's not at gunpoint, necessarily. It's a calculated robbery. The violence is the psychological torture. The violence is the criminal defamation. The violence is the gang stalking. It's still violent. It is still in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. It's a calculated robbery. All right, so I just want to make sure that this is clear. Myra is engaged in monitoring me. Never mind my ability to engage with a co-conspirator of murder, because she's already lost. She's already lost. She's already lost by virtue of the knowledge that you all have, while I use her as an example of relevant positioning, light activity, and audible activity. She's under a fake sun. That's over this address. It's still remaining over me while I have yet to walk from 221 North Fern Avenue, where the airport in the city of Ontario is stalking. Myra is surrounded with evidence while I talk to her about straightening her hair today. She's surrounded with evidence. And that's why I can, chit-chat. Because she's already dealt with, and that's the same with the entity. Myra is a vagina monitor by virtue of the bathroom monitoring that's underway on the first floor while she's in relevant position, stalking in the path. Okay? This is an entity that's engaged in that conduct, and they do so to their own demise. The entity is engaged in harassment all day, all night, and that's not logically nor actually ceasing when you're inside of the building of the OVITT Family Community Library, which is also surrounded with evidence already. These are demons that are so obsessed, in other words, the entity that goes to the extent to try to hide that and makes that other person look crazy, when in reality you're looking at the obsession that's been there the whole time. Satan trying to cloak it amongst a population that has the illusion of anonymity. And they are obsessed psychopaths, obsessed. That obsession while you keep your back to me and you're stalking. That obsession while you're in the environment which is scientifically impossible to exist. And you think by keeping the back of your head to me. That's how delusional you are. You've been eating one too many turds. It's affecting your brain functioning, which is a threat because there's a population of those with that malfunctioning brain. They know exactly what they're acting of their own volition. That's not the defense. That's not criminal insanity. This is mental illness that is psychopathic, malicious, antisocial. Okay, and also delusional. I am going to keep stalking because I refuse to accept the fact that I have been surrounded with evidence because I am above the law. I am going to accomplish my objective. I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care if you've identified me. I don't care. I'm going to keep. That's the mental illness you're dealing with. That's P.O.C. That is terrorism. It is currently 10:51 a.m. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and in the same way that you see me conduct myself in a professional manner as I converse with sex offenders, trifling, disgusting, despicable predators. You're looking at what is the contrast to what are those very adjectives apply to those while they're smiling and calmly engaging in what is the conspiracy to murder someone. And they conduct themselves in a particular manner. And with regard to evidence of being a co-conspirator of murder, does it matter to you when you are being hacked to death and someone has an axe and they are going to town? And I hate, but this is literally the illustrations that you need, because you need to understand, get beyond the veil, get beyond the illusion, get beyond the appearance of the thing. This is not a Salem witch hunt. You're prosecuting with tangible evidence, but you need to not be deceived by the wiles of the devil. And so the entity is engaging in this conduct, and I want to present an illustration for you, an example. Does it matter to you? Are you any less murdered and dead and not breathing and subject to base mayhem when someone is killing you with a hatchet, let's say 72 times? They're taking that hatchet to your face, to your torso, all right, to your legs, cutting your legs off. Does it matter whether the person going to town with a hatchet to take your life, whether they're smiling or whether they're in tears? Does it matter to you? Does it matter whether they're talking on their Bluetooth and they are singing goodnight to their children while their children are at home, and they maintain a Ring camera so that they can watch their kids while they go out in the middle of the night and conduct a quick murder and then go back home to their kids? Does it matter what their outward appearance is while they are nonetheless engaging in what is a murder with a hatchet, taking the life of another person? I want to know, you being a person subject to that murder, does it matter to you? And is it significant? Is it any less of a loss of your life, the facial expression or the ongoing conduct that they're engaging in? It's relevant with regard to perhaps proving a paper trail in an investigation. They were on the phone. They were using this device. They accessed this Ring camera. There's evidence to prosecute with that. But does it matter to you, the one who's being murdered with a hatchet, that they have a smile on their face, or whether they have tears running down their cheeks? Or whether there's solemn silence, no expression? Does it matter to you? Are you any less murdered with the hatchet? And that's what you need to understand about gang stalking, about the demon possessed. And their act has failed, okay? Because they're relying on illusions. This is the practice of witchcraft. They rely on illusions, and their own illusions have driven them to the point of what is the inability to make any sort of contrast, a distinction between what's real and what's not real. This federal prosecution is real. This tangible evidence on the venue of the internet and what's going into a court and what you've already committed, that's all very real. Federal prison for Mike LORENZ, it's very real. Very real. Consequences for what the gang is doing on behalf of an entity, those consequences are very real. The mentally ill are not capable of appreciating that. And that's not a defense. It's a basis of liability. It's an unlawful threat to American citizens. This is terrorism. It's gang violence by the mentally ill, in fact. All right, it is currently 10:55 a.m. and it is Monday, December 8, 2025. And this. Alrighty, these are the demons engaged in ongoing sexual assault and battery, maintaining ongoing engineer light. So this is moving across this wall, which I've shown in video after video after video. They've exhibited their mental illness and their ongoing decision to continue stalking until they are subject to what are federal raids, until they're subject to what is that prosecution in prison. And this has nothing to do. There's a clear separation between them being on the street and this engineer light on the wall. That is impunity, just like I'm showing you where the entity is stalking under the fake sun at the OVITT Family Community Library and the city of Ontario, the people of the state, while they're stalking in that environment on video, while they are clearly communicating to the federal government, American citizens, who they are and how much of a threat that they are and how much they despise this country. Because that is occurring with what? You need to understand that the entity is demon possessed and they murder people in the United States through this very system that I'm exposing. And they're going to be deported out of this country. They are delusional to think that they're keeping custody of children, because they're not. And this is the very evidence that's going to be used to take minor children away from domestic terrorists who engage in vagina monitoring, who engage in criminal monitoring and furtherance of murder, and who engage in what is terrorism in the ways in which you are looking at in real time, in which they are showing you. This is the impunity of those
who are enemies of the United States, demons. Okay? Demon possession is a threat in this country. That's exactly what you're witnessing when impossible light activity is occurring, when the entity is stalking me under a fake sun. You saw them exhibit impunity this morning under the fake sun. All that engineer light at nightfall, it's the same thing what you're looking at all that engineer light under the fake sun, this is the same thing at nightfall. That is P.O.C. Has nothing to do with their headlights. They're demon-possessed people, and they're stalking me. These fools are doing it on video. This is going to be used to study. It's going to be used to educate. It's going to be used to inform. It's going to be used to prosecute. This is P.O.C. That's P.O.C. That's the pattern of conduct. That's their the entity that's stalking with engineer light. While they cross path, the entity keeps engineer light on me. Chevron and German are engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring, while Chevron, the business, is profiting off of federal group stalking and monitoring. Chevron is engaged in that pattern of conduct and furtherance of murder. The fake sun over me at Chevron, the fake sun over me at all hours of the day, including sunrise until sunset. And German is the third party that is engaged in gang stalking with the demons that are stalking me by filling up their gas tanks. And how do you know that I'm the focus? Because your headlights are not going to touch me over here. Your headlights are going to touch me over there. Your headlights aren't going to touch while even you're driving here. And headlights don't create that dynamic light that you're witnessing. This is the criminal conduct of gang violence by Mike Lorenz and the demons of the Ontario Police Department, who engaged in stalking me here for 1+ hours. This is the criminal conduct that they incentivize. This is P.O.C. This is co-conspirators of murder. Co-conspirators of murder. They were sitting in the library stalking all day long. And there's an ongoing body of evidence to put them in the federal facilities where the mentally ill that engage in murdering people as a population, organized crime, where they belong. They belong in prison. They belong deported out of this country. They belong far away from minor children. And those are the vulnerable in American society. And they belong labeled as the terrorists that they are. They're out here stalking me all night long. I am the targeted individual, in fact. And I am also the one that has proven the existence of the system in order to prosecute. And I want to be clear, Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison for this. There is no information that you're given to the federal government where you will avoid federal prison. My life for me remains at threat. And there is money and time that can never be refunded. Okay? There was an unlawful threat that I was subject to that is incalculable. That which you cannot quantify. He's going to prison under all circumstances. Just where terrorists belong. And so is Tracy Banks. This is Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields co-defendant. Times 1,000,000, okay? The entire state, and they're going to prison for that. So are the gang members of the Ontario Police. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:16 p.m. This is the entity engaging in the perpetual sex offense. This is what was stalking me in the bathroom. Sitting in a wheelchair is no form. They're in the engineer light. The engineer light that's in the bathroom is moving across this wall. It's not sunlight, it's not their headlights, and it's not the lights in the bathroom. They're stalkers, and they're demon-possessed stalkers, and they're engaging that while the entity is maintaining aerial surveillance above me. This is the entity that's engaging in that conduct on behalf of the state. That's P.O.C. Okay, that's the pattern of conduct. This proves it with regard to the absence of any coincidence. And I just want to be clear, Jay Sandoval is going to prison. You will never be communicating a threat to an American citizen and think you're avoiding federal prison when you're a stalker. This is the entity that's engaging in that. You're looking at all the connection of the dots. The demon-possessed people of the state, they commit murder on behalf of that government that's stalking in helicopter. The entity that's engaged in stalking in helicopter, they commit murder in concert with these demons that are stalking with impossible light. Doing so in the mentally ill and depraved manner, such as a fake sun and engineered light. They share in their mental illness while the government, the Mike Lorenz and the Ontario Police, are stalking by helicopter, proving the ongoing criminal conspiracy to commit murder together. That's why they've committed kidnapping. This is why they've engaged in what is assisted criminal summoning. This is the entity that's engaged in criminal defamation together. They're going to prison. Jason Fields is going to prison for stalking and criminally defaming and stealing with the Ontario Police. These are the demons that are stalking as one. Remember, monitoring is committed in furtherance of murder. This is that ongoing criminal conspiracy, and that's psychopathic pacing. They are pacing an engineer light on Euclid Avenue. This is a traffic surveillance, and that's psychopathic pacing in helicopter, just like they committed here for over an hour. This is mental illness that is a threat to national security. Martial law is exactly what Mike Lorenz and the Ontario Police Department are going to be dealt with by. They are going to federal prison. They are not a police department, and this evidence has already proven that. They are going to federal prison, and mental examinations are necessary. And not only that, the entities engaged in what is delusional and failed witchcraft. This is witchcraft that they're engaging in right now. The engineer light, the presence in that environment, the entity that's engaging what is psychopathic pacing as you're stripping down what they're doing in the engineered environment, they're pacing. This is the work of Satan. This is mental illness. A population of the mentally ill who are engaging in it with, again, the gang members of the Ontario Police. I could not make that up. This could not be more perfect with regard to what is a federal court and the federal government that is recognizing and prosecuting and giving justice to an American that has proven the existence of gang stalking and how that system operates, occurring amongst what are the mentally ill, the demon possessed. Demon possession is relevant to what is that criminal conduct, the elements of monitoring, demonic activity. And the demonic activity is how you're going to prosecute and diagnose their mental illness. The entity that's engaged in stalking with light, that's what this engineer light is. Okay? This is the environment that they're stalking in. And they have engineer light moving all across while they are crossing path with me, one after another, by the millions. And they are together engaged in organized crime, the co-conspirators of murder. And you're going to federal prison at the terrorist organization. Mike Lorenz is the terrorist leader, and he's going to federal prison for sharing in what is psychological torture and the unabated program of that psychological torture, which coexists with stalking on a 24-hour basis, including the monitoring of my vagina. That's not a police department, and this is the entity that is serving to prosecute the people in the state. They are losing custody of their children. They are providing evidence which is going to be used in family court. It's going to be used against the entity that is engaged in gang stalking. I've documented you. I'm prosecuting you. You're losing your children. You're being deported out of this country, and you're going to prison where you're engaged in the shared criminal elements of monitoring like the entity is doing right now. This is P.O.C. And as you already know, Myra and John and Yesenia, the entity that's gang stalking at the Open Family Community Library, this is what they're doing as well. They're pacing in that venue on behalf of the demons of the Ontario Police who share a mental illness, share in malice, share in the co-conspiracy to murder while they are stalking at the population. And the entity that is psychopathic, lacks self-control to not act like they're not stalking, as I have already proven their pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. That's a stalker in engineer light. And this is my shadow appearing at a distance away. And this is my shadow on the floor. The government is providing evidence to prosecute the people of the state. They're losing custody of the children to whom they are a threat, while they keep the vagina of another woman under surveillance, while they are engaged in terrorism, in furtherance of murder, in concert with the government that provides evidence against the terrorists, the enemies of this country in real time. This is P.O.C. While they're stalked with impossible light, you're looking at the entity of the population that is indeed mentally ill. And I've documented them by the thousands. This is P.O.C. This is the impunity that they are exhibiting, and it's going to be used in federal court. I just want to break this down for you. These demons know exactly what I'm stating. That's why the entity started stalking by helicopter. The more radical and spectacular the light activity, the more hostile the stalker, the demon-possessed stalker that's keeping the evidence about it under surveillance. That's okay because they're being deported out of the United States, and no one's going to cry for them. They're losing custody of the children that they have sex with, that they facilitate and include in federal group stalking and monitoring, that they train to engage in psychological torture and tormenting others, that they include in sexual violence and corporate sex acts against the consent of the American citizen. They're losing custody of them while they're engaged in gang stalking right now with impunity. And a federal judge, the federal government, federal law is mindful of this. This is informing federal legislation. Okay? That's the entity that is indeed as a gang stalking police department. Gang stalking police officers go to federal prison and are subject to mental examinations. Gang stalking mayors like Paul Leon they are not exempt from a federal prosecution, which Paul Leon is engaged in the criminal conspiracy to commit murder of an American citizen in concert with the population, the community that he is a part of. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so in furtherance of murder. And the fact that they're doing it and not ceasing to engage in it engages in more threatening conduct in this video with the helicopter activity, with the light activity. They're communicating a threat, and you are witnessing it. This is analysis to put terrorists in prison and out of this country. This is P.O.C. There's a laundry list from Jonathan Burnett and Sequoia Payton to Vivanco, Joseph Valencia, and Durham, the entity that's engaged in kidnapping. They're all going to federal prison from 2019 to 2025. Every single last one of them are going to federal prison. There's a laundry list. And that's just the demons of this terrorist organization. The terrorist organization that is the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They've got a surprise. They're going to prison. They committed kidnapping with this agency as this system is exposed, while they lack self-control and they forget about everybody else that's shared in kidnapping with them, because they're going to prison as well. While the people of the state show the same. They're going to federal prison. The demons of the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, they're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. These are the demons that have profited from gang stalking me, that have been incentivized with money that belongs to me, property that belongs to me. They are very much interested with regard to money and the contract of murder that has failed and that I'm exposing to gang stalk me. That's also why they're going to prison. And the Ontario police that are stalking in this video are going to prison. They've also been compensated to gang stalk me. Gang stalking, remember, is demonic activity. It's criminal monitoring. They're engaged in what is light activity, relevant positioning, meaning positioning themselves in a position relative to where I am located. Stalking, one in the path, one after another. When it's occurring under the system of public corruption and gang stalking, it's appearing in plain view. Traffic, it's psychopathic pacing, it's relevant positioning, light activity, audible activity. The entity just engaged in psychopathic pacing via helicopter, while they lose their ability to act like they can't even act like they're not stalking. This is going to be used in family court. This is going to be used with regard to immigrants. This is going to be used with regard to prosecuting terrorists and the civil prosecution regarding criminal acts of the gang stalking businesses. Remember, the entire state, including Chevron and ARCO and Bucket, Crab, and Crawfish, El Pescado, the entity that's gang stalking all the businesses and everybody where they live. This is the prosecution of that whole entity. While they're engaging in it, focused on what I'm stating, the entire entity is being prosecuted together for what is terrorism, while they bully one person. Understand that. This is P.O.C. This is what the entity is doing while they're stalking. I want you to look at what is the fake moon. That's not the moon. The fake moon. That's a stalker. And your headlights are not going to reach over here and touch me. They're not going to blind me. They're not going to create multiple shadows. That's a stalker that's conspiring my murder. And they're doing it on behalf of the terrorists that just showed you and confirmed it. The terrorist organization, the Ontario Police Department. This is P.O.C. The city of Ontario is going to be gutted out. Mike LORENZ is not a police chief, he's a terrorist. Alan D. WAPNER is not a president of the airport authority, he's a terrorist. There are no takeoffs over here. The airport is south of Holt Boulevard. They are blatantly engaging in targeting, communicating very clearly is what you're deducing from that. That they are threats to this country, the airport's being shut down, that they engage in organized crime, murdering American citizens, and that they are psychopaths who engage in much more when it is not exposed in the way in which that I'm exposing it. They're doing it on video. This is a national security threat. They will be treated like the enemies of the country that they are. Martial law is absolutely necessary. Martial law is absolutely crucial. When you are stalking as an airport, you're doing that with regard to the full intention, objective to commit murder. This is P.O.C. The entities engaged in what is psychopathic stalking. Understand they're doing this all night long. All night long. And they engage in more spectacular light activity, more sensational activity that is more harassment as I document. And then the psychopaths are hostile and they are triggered by the truth that I'm speaking about what they are doing. The airport is stalking, the Ontario police are stalking, the Ontario Fire Department is not a fire department. They're engaged in terrorism and the city of Ontario is being gutted out. Meaning this city is not going to have any of that. And this city has been instrumental in stealing money and property from me, defaming my character through the very demons that are gang stalking me. They're the ones that have been defaming me, and I don't even know them. They're helping Tracy Banks and Jason Fields in the Ontario Police Department, who are the subjects in my evidence documented gang stalking me. They're going to prison. They're going to engage in what is compensating me, and the entity's losing everything that they've utilized to target me. This is P.O.C. They're still stalking. That's the bottom line. They're still stalking. Nothing that you're doing over here is creating light activity over here. And nothing that you're doing in this environment is anything other than stalking. And nothing that you're doing with the Ontario police who are established as terrorists, it's the criminal pattern of conduct of the state, is anything but stalking. The entity is, again, mentally ill. The demon-possessed have no business around minor children. They contribute to the delinquency of minors, and they engage in sexual activity. They are violent sex offenders who engage in sexual violence against minors, and they include them in criminal conduct. The Ontario Police Department are a threat to minor children. Okay, that's the entity that's gang stalking as a pattern of conduct with regard to what is targeting somebody that's putting it all over the internet. There's no mystery here. In the federal courts, you're aware of why the entity has been targeting me for so many years, because this is the entity that's engaged in what is repeatedly kidnapping, just like Jay Sandoval threatened to engage in while I've been maintaining this ongoing investigation. And they've been stealing my money, gang stalking me and also stealing from me at the same time, gang stalking me and also defaming me at the same time. This is what Tracy Banks and Jason Fields have led. And they did so in concert with the state of California. That's what the Ontario Police Department, Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, these gang stalking corrupt institutions and medical facilities that have no business with me. They engaged in kidnapping and defaming my character while they knew that I was exposing them for targeting me. This is the entity. I am more advanced than all of the demon-possessed put together. They are mentally ill, in fact, which my evidence proved, and they have manufactured through what is this corrupt system of stalking me and seeking to defame my character by stealing from me, and it's a state system. And this is why you have a population of the mentally ill, the feces consumers, the vagina monitors, those that are spending millions of dollars stalking me all night long and stalking me in helicopters and airplanes. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's going to be dealt with as the enemies of the United States that they are. They do this to American citizens throughout the country. And they are doing it with immigrants that come to this country to partake in terrorism with the U.S. government. Martial law is absolutely crucial because you are looking at what is a threat to the public. While they're stalking me, it's not just stalking with light, and it's not just annoying light activity. They're doing this in furtherance of murder, and they're doing it in real time while their criminal system is exposed. That sort of mindset is a threat to the public. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 9:29 p.m.